Why do 99% of investors who invest in working interest in the oil and gas space lose their money? There are lists out there that has your name on it because of your zip code, because of your income, because of public data tells me you look exactly like the squirrel that these oil and gas companies are chasing. So congratulations. But now that you know you're on the list, you have to make sure you're not on the burn list. Don't be afraid of it, embrace it. You are successful in that everybody knows you make a lot of money, pay a lot of taxes, but it also means you have a target on your back. Hey everyone, I'm Troy Eckard. I'm the chairman of the board of Eckard Enterprises located in North Texas. My family has been involved in the oil and gas industry since 1985. What we love to do is drill wells, buy mineral rights, and participate in the greatest industry in the United States. That's the oil and gas space. We like to work with high net worth, high income investors who all want to participate in oil and gas. They just don't know how and with who. You know, a question every one of you should be asking is, why do 99% of investors who invest in working interest in the oil and gas space lose their money? It's a great question. And if that higher ratio exists, then what it tells me is 99% of future high income, high net worth investors will not invest in working interest because they look at the investors, they look at the market, they look at the previous success and failures of other investors in working interest, and they run the other direction without getting any information. I'm Troy Eckard, and I'm going to tell you exactly why I believe after 4 decades of representing high income, high net worth investors that you can successfully be involved in oil and gas working interest, but I'm going to tell you why you're not. Now, I'm talking to you as you watch this video. I want you to know this is personal. There are lists out there that has your name on it because you bought mobile home parks, because you bought anything in the alternative asset space, because of your zip code, because of your income, because of public data tells me you look exactly like the squirrel that these oil and gas companies are chasing. So the question is, you have to know you're a target every day. That comes from somebody selling annuities, life insurance, bonds, stocks, financial advisors. Because of your success, you're on the list. So congratulations. But now that you know you're on the list, you have to make sure you're not on the burn list. What's a burn list? A burn list is where they go to the courthouse or they go to public filings and they say, who's invested in bad apartment complex deals? Who's bought in bad self-storage deals? Who's bought in alternative assets? Because if they've done it once and they've been in the alternative asset space, well, they're going to do it again. Because your character, your pattern of investing, who you are, your income, your tax needs, put you in that category that says, this person likes to play the game. As a result, don't be afraid of it, embrace it. You are successful in that everybody knows you make a lot of money, pay a lot of taxes, but it also means you have a target on your back. How do you avoid having that target on your back? You have to recognize what makes you the potential victim of bad investing in working interest or oil and gas. So let me tell you what it looks like. The first thing is don't invest with your emotions. You have people out there who become very, very good at trying to talk to you as if they just got off an oil rig. They give you that good old Texas swag and they say, hey, listen, we're drilling over here with shale oil and gas and we got 2 wells going down and we're 3rd generation oil and gas company. So what happens is you think you're watching Landman on TV. You think you're part of the OK Corral and that attraction, it sounds really good because you believe that somebody in the oil and gas business should talk like they're out of 3rd grade, but they got a barrel of oil and that gas is right there in their hand. They're out there every day slinging that iron. That's not how you invest in Exxon. It's not how you invest in NVIDIA. It's not how you invest in any other public stock. You want sophisticated business owners and entrepreneurs and management teams presenting you an investment opportunity in a particular asset class who are experts at what they do and who bring the intellectual skill sets from several different intellectual professions like engineering and geology and land and title and accounting and all the different components that make up a successful business. You want that person talking to you to not wave their arms. You want them to give you empirical facts. Show me how long you've been in the business. Tell me how many wells that you've drilled. Tell me how much capital you're raising this year. The average shale well in this country costs $8.5 to $10 million per well. If they're raising $2 million, they barely paid for the pad site and the equipment that goes in the wellhead. They're not in the oil and gas business. They're in the landscaping business. They got a push mower they bought at Lowe's or Home Depot 24 hours ago. That's not a landscaping business. That's a guy that mows grass. Same thing happens in the oil and gas industry. You've got to find out who they really are. This is one of the largest industries in America. It's the oil and gas industry. We spend billions every year drilling wells. You've got to make sure who you're participating with can stand up to that kind of level of professionalism and have a business that matches that kind of degree of focus and to be able to perform and execute and deliver successful investments to you. Don't have FOMO. FOMO is what? Well, my buddy invested with this company over here. He said I'd invest because I got a big tax write-off. I got a lot of good buddies. Most of them, I don't trust them to tell me which way to cross the street. We're good friends for life, but I don't want to have them tell me how to invest my money because they themselves are not successful. I think in order for you not to have fear of missing out is say, I've got a plan. I have a need. I have an execution idea. I have income I've got to protect from the IRS. I want to use the tax laws. I want to use what Congress has passed and say they've opened up an entire enormous tax benefit by investing in working interest. Thank you very much. But behind that big tax benefit is risk. The risk is I don't want to lose the other part of my money. As an example, if I make $1 million in income that's taxable this year, the simplest thing to do is give it to my CPA. He says, Troy, you have no deductions. I'm going to send $370,000 to the IRS, and I have $630,000 left after taxes to invest successfully. That's one simple math. I don't have FOMO. Pay your taxes. I do sometimes because I don't find investments each year that match my income that I believe are going to be successful. So I'm talking from the guy who actually does it myself. But if I'm in the position and I find the right company that has a proven track record, that has an integrated team between operations and engineering and accounting and land and client services, and I've got a potential sponsor, a potential company to invest with in working interest, then I now have an absolute second choice. The second choice is what? I would like to consider investing in drilling and working interest because I know you've done it before. I know you've been successful before. And I know you put together the team that gives me the highest probability of success. Now, if I can do that, then I'm willing to take that $1 million in income and invest it in working interest because I firmly believe I can invest the $370,000 I would have given the IRS. I can invest that much more successfully than giving it to the IRS. I use that to drill wells in this country with successful oil and gas operators and sponsors, and I have the chance of making a great profit with excellent returns if I do all the things right necessary to be successful. Most people don't do that. 99% of most high-income, high-net-worth investors that invest in oil and gas, they think they're in Las Vegas. They walk up to the table, two people call them an oil and gas, they throw that Texas swing in, and they go, I'll put $100,000 here and $50,000 there and $100,000 there. Then time goes along like slow cancer, and 2 or 3 years later, they're going, I never got any return. I didn't even get back 10% of my money, or they never reported on the well, or did they even drill the well? Now you've done two things. You've given yourself a failed investment. You should have just paid your tax. But more importantly is, you might actually have unwound your tax write-offs because if they don't drill the well, if they don't do what they're supposed to do, the IRS can come back to you and say, you took a tax deduction on something that never occurred. It has great consequences when you invest out of emotions. It has great consequences when you allow FOMO to take over. The other thing is, I don't want you to buy the story. See, stories are about telling you what you want to hear. We have an industry that is based on public data. We have an industry based on facts. We're probably the highest user of software and hardware of any industrial industry in the United States. We drill wells using triangulation from satellites. We drill wells that we can see 3 and 4 miles to the ground, watching it move inch by inch. Our drilling rigs today are modern. They're used like massive computer systems where they're being run by computer systems in Dallas and Houston and Denver, Colorado, where you have 5, 10, 20 engineers looking at your well being drilled every single minute of every single day. See, this is no longer where I have to buy a story. What I want today is I want an encyclopedia. I want you to lay out the facts in front of me. Tell me who you are. Tell me how long you've been drilling. Tell me how much money you put to work. Show me how much money you made for your investors. I don't care if you lost some and made some. Tell me all the information and give me true transparency. I'll make my own decision. But unfortunately, 99% of most high-income, high-net-worth investors, they get caught up in the story. They get caught up and they're sloppy. They don't run the due diligence. They think it's a game of craps in Vegas. They think it's roulette in Vegas. And they hope they win. They hope they don't lose too much. But they walk away like 99% of most people from Vegas. They walk away saying, it was fun, but I lost my money. I don't think I'll do that again. The last thing I'll tell you is, I don't want you to be driven by panic. See, when we get to the latter part of any physical tax year, the bell rings like you're chumming for piranha. The bell rings and goes, tax deductions, tax deductions, come get your tax deductions. And every single incompetent, bad actor, illegal, unethical oil and gas sponsor out there, they know how to ring that dinner bell because now you're panicked. You've done no tax planning. You haven't looked at your income throughout the year. You haven't looked at your deductions. You haven't rebalanced your portfolio. You haven't created a plan. You're now panicked. I've got 90 days in the last quarter of every year. I've got to get rid of this money or I'm going to pay an enormous amount of taxes. Now, they count on that. They fully expect to have massive amounts of high income earners who are panicked with 90 days to go. And every one of them line up along the fence line. And as they parade you by as a high income earner, they're like cat calls. Hey, right here, tax write-offs, drilling wells in Wyoming. Hey, cat calls, I'm drilling wells in East Texas. Hey, I'm drilling wells in Pennsylvania. I'm drilling wells in West Texas. And you lose all sense of common sense. You lose all sense of due diligence. And you wait to see whichever one catches your eye. And by the time you get down that path and you walk along all that catcalling, you're going to make a decision and go, well, not all of them can be liars. Not all of them can be failures. Not everyone can be a bad actor. And so you decide to choose which one of the ugliest ducks on the fence you choose to be partners with. The truth is, it could be all 100 of the 100 people on that fence line all have the same intention, to take your money and return zero. So it is not an emotional game. It is not an investment that requires sloppiness. It's not an investment that's a one-time fix. Oil and gas exploration is just like being a shareholder with Exxon, except instead of getting 3.5% in dividends, how about getting 100% of the income from the wells that you drill? Instead of following these other public companies who are creating billions of dollars in value and they give out partial interest in dividends to their shareholders, how about actually drilling, participating, investing, and creating the same strategy as major public companies and doing that exact same thing again and again and again the next 5, 10, 20 years? And when you're done, how about taking $1 million, turning it into $5 to $10 to $20 million at the end of 20 years with literally millions of dollars of reserves in the ground with cash flow coming every 30 days? See, that is emotional to me because that means I'm successful. I want you to think about why most of you fail. Most of you fail because you don't take it serious. Most of you fail because you don't ask the right questions. Most of you use excuses like, I don't know who to ask, I don't know where to ask. Well, if you had to go get a mortgage today, I bet you'd figure out how to get the best mortgage company. If you had a brain tumor, I bet you'd figure out who the best neurologist was in the country. If you had any need, you would find the answer because you're smart, you're accredited, you're a millionaire, you have high income. For some reason, 99% of most high income earners in oil and gas working interest take their brains out and they play with it like it's Play-Doh. What I want you to do is I want you to think about being a surgeon. And I want to surgically understand how working interest works, how I can be successful, and how I don't fall into that 99% bucket of those who follow FOMO, panic, fear, and lack of common sense. That's how you make money in oil and gas. You figure out what you don't want to do, and by preponderance of the reduction of the things you don't want to do, you're left with the right solutions of how to be successful in America's greatest asset, drilling domestic wells through working interest with major tax deductions and monthly cash flow. Folks, if you really want to know about anything involving domestic exploration, there's a lot of great information online. Eckard Enterprises has taken a lot of effort and a lot of time to create a lot of educational information that pretty much touches every subject. You can always go to our website, EckardEnterprises.com, and on that site we have an app. And if you'll enter and fill out the information in the app, you access an entire library of almost 7 years of educational videos, information, ebooks on every part of the oil and gas industry you can think of, and we do it for one reason. We want you to be the smartest, most educated, well-informed, and transparent energy company in the marketplace. Whether you ever become a partner with Eckard or not does not matter. We want you to know how it works, why it works, and how to access that information. All you have to do is follow the QR code, go to our website, apply on the app. We don't need your net worth. We don't need to know anything about you other than I have an interest in becoming an educated potential energy investor in the future, or I just want to know about America's domestic exploration. That's what we do. We educate through transparency and information.